2 of SIA the podcast, where we explore thoughtful and inspiring approaches to parenting and education. Our mission is to create impactful content that enriches conversations on education, student advocacy, and the challenges faced by parents today. My name is Heather Moore, and I'm the head of school at Strelitz International Academy, and I will be your host. I have over 29 years of experience in the independent school world, with 9 years as a head of school and 20 years serving as an independent school chief financial officer. I also have 2 grown children, an amazing daughter-in-law, and have been married to my wonderful husband for 32 years. In today's episode, we're diving into the concept of reimagining recess, exploring how multiple recess periods, multi-age play, and fostering independence can transform children's social, emotional, and cognitive development. Joining me today is Allie St. Pierre, our Manager of Admissions and Communications. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you, Heather. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have this conversation with you today.
I am too.
I'd like to highlight for our community and our listeners the conversation about recess and the fact that we changed our entire schedule, our school schedule this year, which was not an easy thing to do. We kind of flipped it on its head, and we did that in order to create opportunities for our kids to connect with nature more often, to have more agency, more independence, more creative play. But the real impetus behind all of it is just the fact that we see so much anxiety, depression in elementary age kids nowadays. And this is not common. This is not something, I mean, I've been in education for 30 years. Wow, You've been in education for...
Since 2013, so...
Right. And so we never saw, or rarely, I shouldn't say never, you never say never, but we rarely saw the anxiety that we see today in such young kids.
Absolutely.
It's definitely increasing. And so we are trying to do everything we can do in order to instill confidence in our kids. Yes. We want them to be confident people, critical thinkers. We want them to love learning. We want them to be able to manage themselves in social settings. Right. And so some of that comes from play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I've also said over several years that, I didn't see children playing outside in my neighborhood anymore. There's just no kids out there. You see playgrounds and they're empty. Nobody's on them. And again, we have so much adult supervised time. You just don't see kids being kids, playing with kids. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we won't get into all of that. But we will focus mainly today on how SIA has reimagined recess.
I think that's great. So, Heather, how did recess used to be run at SIA?
So recess was very controlled in the past. Right. Number one, we only had one recess period per day, and it followed lunch. And so that was a very long period of time that kids were not engaged academically speaking, because they would go to lunch, they would try to eat as fast as they could eat so that they could hurry up and get out to recess, even though eating quickly doesn't change what time you go to recess. But, elementary kids think, let's hurry so we can get outside. But they only got to be outside once a day other than maybe PE time.
Right. If the weather allowed for PE.
Right, yes. But in addition to that, there was a lot of adult supervision out at recess, in the sense that teachers were assigned to specific zones. You had teachers kind of walking the area where the playground specifically equipment was, like swings, slides, climbing, things like that. You had teachers assigned to the field. So if there were kids out doing, a game, some sort of game out in the field, there was a teacher there. We, of course, have the Gaga pit. There was a teacher assigned to the Gaga pit. So the point of that is there was a teacher at every zone. And so any type of conflict or any type of situation that might occur, there was an adult right there to intervene all the time.
Right.
And so we realized that children were, number one, not learning how to resolve their own conflicts because it was a immediate, I'm going to run to the teacher. We also realized that it really took away their own creativity about what do they want to do outside at recess.
Yeah. Limited.
Yeah, very limited. It's like you get on the swings, you slide down the slide, you run around the field, you decide you're going to participate in Gaga. But that was pretty much it.
Right.
And we have a huge outdoor space with lots of opportunities for creativity. We have the garden, we have mud kitchens. Yes, we have your typical playground equipment.
Right.
We do have Gaga, but we have what do you call it? We call it the white top with basketball, all kinds of things that kids could be doing. But they really limited themselves and kind of, just went to one area or another
Right.
with very little thought about why they were there or what they wanted to do.
Right.
That kind of sums up how recess was, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. So how is it run now? What's different? What are the changes?
Okay, so what's different this year is, first of all, we realized that kids need to connect outside with nature more than once a day. It's not realistic to say that children need to be sitting in their desk, not that they were,
Right.
for our listeners out there, but I'm just saying children shouldn't be sitting at their desk all day long during the school day. They have to move, just as we adults can't sit at our desk all day long. We have to move. We have to interact with people.
Yep.
So we have added a second recess this year.
Two recesses now.
We have 2 recess periods.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And so we have one in the morning. We have morning recess, and then we have afternoon recess, which is not connected to lunch any longer.
So that's a big change.
Yes, it's a huge change. So after lunch, kids go back to class, whatever their next class may be. Could be language arts, social studies, science, library, whatever it is, they go back to class. And they have a recess, I think it's an hour later.
Oh, wow.
So they actually have more recess time with these 2 recess periods.
And I'm sure they love that.
They do love it. Well, the funny thing is, when we first started it, I noticed that kids didn't necessarily know what to do with the second recess.
Wow.
At first, they would go out there and they're a little bit bewildered, wait.
Didn't we just do this?
We already had recess. How come we're out here again? Right. But of course, that quickly went away because, that was not a problem for them to figure out what to do. But initially, they were like, what do we do?
Right.
Okay, so that's the biggest change, that we've added a second recess and we've split them up. So it gives the kids brain breaks. It's built-in brain breaks.
That's great.
But also we've made sure that there are lots of opportunities for kids to do different things outside.
Right.
Not every child wants to play a game. They don't all want to play dodgeball or kickball or soccer or basketball. They don't all want to do that. And they don't all want to swing on swings. So we have made sure that there's all kinds of materials out there for different types of playground play, much more creative. Right. We've got sidewalk chalk for the kids who are really artistic and they really like to spend their time doing things like that. We have the garden and gardening tools for the kids to work in the garden, play in the garden. Some kids absolutely love that. We have mud kitchens now. So all of these things contribute to an experience. And that's what we want them to have. And we want them to go out to recess and decide what their recess experience will be. So also, teachers are not assigned to zones any longer.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes,
that's
there
a big
is
change.
Absolutely adult supervision out there. So I don't want any of our listeners to think that, that's changed. But what has changed is the children know that they have an adult if they have a situation.
That's great.
They know where to find them and they know what to do. But the teachers are not intervening in the children's play or their interactions.
Wow. So that's truly, time for the children to play with each other.
Exactly.
And not the adults that's there.
No adult intervention in in the way that it used to be. We don't decide what the rules of the game are going to be.
Right.
We don't help the kids define the rules of the game. Okay, you can't do this, you can do this. They have to decide those things. Today we're playing kickball and these are the rules. These are the teams, these are the captains, whatever it is, they decide those things. And they do have disagreements.
That's great.
Right. It is great because you learn a lot from disagreements.
Right.
And we encourage them to resolve those disagreements themselves.
Which is such an important skill.
Yes.
That they're learning.
It's very important. So that's another change. So multiple recess sessions. Teachers are there. They are facilitators for the children.
Right.
They are, the safe space for the children if they need it. But they are not intervening in their play. I think that's really important. But also, in addition to that, you bring in the concept of multi-age play. And so we can talk more about that later, but that's also part of our new Reimagine recess. Right. All the children are out for recess at the same time. So the positive thing about that is I see kids playing soccer of all ages. Kindergartners are playing soccer with 4th and 5th graders. It's so cool. Wonderful. Those 4th and 5th graders are taking them under their wing, and teaching them the game. It's really expanded outside of recess too, because now these kids, they look up to these big fifth graders, but the fifth graders are happy to see those kindergartners and first graders in the hallway just as much.
Yeah.
They greet each other, they high five each other, they look out for each other.
Wow, that's so special.
Yeah, it's so much more interaction than it used to be.
And it really contributes to the community of SIA.
Yes, it creates an enormous community. So the big kids are looking out for the little ones, which is fabulous. But also the little kids are expanding their social network. They're going outside of their comfort zone.
Right.
They're learning new things. They're exploring.
Yes.
So the benefits are boundless, really.
Wow. Yeah, confidence is sky high. That's great. We kind of touched base on this, but what do you see kids doing now that they weren't doing before?
Well, like I said, one of the biggest things that I see or most important things that I see are kids of multi-ages playing and spending time together and learning from each other. But I would also say that I see kids being so much more creative in their play outside.
Right.
There's imagination happening everywhere.
So cool.
You know, when you go out to recess, you hear kids, and if you stand back and you just listen to them speaking with each other, they might be playing with some sandbox toys, as an example, but it's not a sandbox. It's another planet, and they're exploring this other planet, and, you can hear them imagining the play together.
Wow.
And that's also amazing. And funny enough, I think, I even see the older children playing in the sandbox with the younger children, and I never used to see that. I just didn't.
So
that just
cool.
you just didn't see that. And they're also just as imaginative when they're playing with those younger students in the sandbox. Or they might not even be younger students. They might just be, hey, let's go hang out in the sandbox, which is great. So that's some of the biggest changes. I think I see the creativity. I also see that they're proud of themselves. They're confident and they're proud of themselves, which, that's amazing.
So
and when I've spoken to some of the kids about, what do you guys think about recess this year? They love it. They're so happy to have more than one recess.
Yeah.
And of course, they would love to have more recess. Could we
Of
have a
course.
third recess, Mrs. Moore?
Can we squeeze it in there?
I think the teachers might kill me if I did that, but so.
It's funny when I do tours for my primary years, prospective families, they always are very impressed with the fact that we have 2 recesses, and they always mention how they think it's great for their students to get a break, for their children to get a break. And I say, and as you mentioned earlier, it's hard as an adult to sit in an office or sit at a desk for 8 hours. So how can we expect these children that have so much energy, and just so much going on? So I love that. What about the teachers, Heather? Was there any hesitation from them?
Yes. There was significant hesitation from the teachers initially, and primarily because they were concerned about losing teaching time.
Oh, yeah.
So, from their perspective, you're taking time away from us and you're giving it to recess. How can you do that? How are we going to cover all the content? How are we going to get everything done? But interestingly, as they've seen, they trusted in the process, which I truly appreciate that about our faculty.
Yeah.
They are willing to try things.
That's amazing.
And so they said, okay, we will give this a try. And we guaranteed back to the teachers that we wanted to hear their feedback. We wanted to know, how is this impacting your classroom? How is this impacting your students? It's not a mandate from the top down. It's a let's try this for the children.
Right.
Because we all see the anxiety and depression. The teachers see it too.
Yes.
So everybody does want to figure out what can we do to help alleviate that.
Yeah.
So they were very willing but concerned just about, how are they going to get everything done? I would say if you speak to the teachers now, one of the things that they have really noticed is they used to have to do a lot of what we call brain breaks in the classroom.
Right.
Because their students would lose focus.
Right, absolutely.
They were fidgety. And so they had to have brain breaks. They had to get up and do what we call a brain break. Might be,
Go noodle.
Go noodle. Thank you. I couldn't think of it at the moment. So they would put something like that on for 10 or 15 minutes in their classroom, and then the kids would get some energy out, get the wiggles out, and then they would be able to sit back down and focus. Well, now that we have multiple recess times, they're not doing the brain breaks because they said they don't need them.
That's wonderful.
So that means the kids are able to focus better when they're in the the classroom than they were before. I kind of look at this as sort of an experiment for this school year. And of course, we want to evaluate it. We want to be sure that it's a positive addition to our school. And we want to tweak it as time goes on.
Yeah, we'll reflect. We'll reflect upon it.
We will absolutely reflect and make any additional changes that we need. But they definitely feel like they don't have to have, not feel like, they've said, we don't have to have brain breaks because we have additional recesses. And the kids know that, so they look forward to it. They're like, okay, right now it's time for social studies, math, language arts, but in 20 minutes, we're going out to recess again. So I think it's helped on both ends in that way.
Great. That's great. And any safety concerns from the teachers? How did they feel about not standing at their post and manning all the children?
So they were concerned about that. And, you know, the whole bullying out at recess, everybody loves the word bullying. I really don't like that word. Right. But that was a big concern for teachers because they were like, well, if we're not posted at all these places, there's going to be a lot more bullying. Well, interestingly, the exact opposite has happened.
That's amazing.
There is less and less conflict. The kids, if they do have a conflict, immediately start thinking with each other and talking with each other about how they're going to resolve it or what they're going to do.
Wow.
There are times where, you know, it doesn't work and somebody gets upset. We do always tell our children, no hands. You may not use hands on anybody.
Absolutely.
And so if something does happen at recess, that person might be asked to take a break from what they're doing so that they can, you know, regulate their emotions and figure out what's going on with themselves. So we might ask them to, you know, sit out, take a break, take a few minutes, or go do something else.
Right.
Go do something else that doesn't make you feel so unhappy or aggravated. There are lots of ways of redirecting conflict, but overall, the teachers have all reported that there is so much less conflict at recess than we ever used to see. And they were very surprised by that. That was they really did not anticipate that kids would, you know, the anger and the whatever they wanted to call it really kind of dissipated. And that was a surprise.
It's amazing what happens when we just let go.
Yes, let children be children. You know, it's funny, when my kids were little and they would have some disagreement or argument, typically it was over some toy or something.
Right.
They both wanted.
Yeah.
If it got to the point where they were coming to me because they were so mad and they couldn't seem to work it out, over the years, they stopped coming to me because I always said the exact same thing to them. If you cannot work this out on your own, I'm going to work it out for you, and you're not going to like that. And so, because they would never like my answer. My answer was, well, give me that toy, and nobody gets it.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Done.
and so no one really wanted that.
Of course.
But so over the years, they stopped coming to me with that, and they figured out how to work it out. Like, you can have it for 10 minutes, and I'll have it for 10 minutes, whatever it was. But I think it's kind of the same concept happening.
Yeah.
We're saying to our kids out at recess, we're not making the rules of kickball today. You are.
Yeah.
So we don't know. You guys have to figure out what happened. Was he out? Was he not out?
Right.
I don't know.
Think about it. Reflect upon it. And I mean, that really gives them ownership, our students.
Yes.
And that's fantastic.
Agency, independence, ownership, but really important social skills.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing how something like recess, that it's in every school. It varies in time, but it's recess, and that's where they're learning at school. It's not just, you know, playing basketball. It's really a time for them to grow.
It is a very important growth opportunity for kids. There is no question about that.
Yeah. So what is everyone saying about the 2 recesses now? How do the teachers feel? What are the students saying?
Again, I mean, I feel like everyone is very pleased with the 2 recesses, and the kids, if anything, really just want more. You know, which obviously we don't believe we can probably do anymore.
No.
But
2 is good.
But they're much happier with it.
Yeah,
overall.
That's great. And what about the parents?
I haven't heard a lot from parents about recess. Now, we did initially, because I think parents were also kind of like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? They were more concerned about the safety piece of it. Like, wait, what do you mean teachers aren't going to be assigned to whatever? And now they also see that their children are making up their own games.
Wow.
You know? And so from that perspective, I think they're happy. They want their children to be independent, you
Yeah.
know? They want them to be confident, and they want them to be able to solve their own social conflicts. You know, you don't,
Right.
as a parent, you really don't want to be in the middle of your children's social conflicts.
No.
I've seen a lot of that over the years as an educator. I mean,
I'm sure.
you know, with parents coming in telling me somebody's bullying their child and this is what's going on, and adults trying to get in the middle of things. The truth of the matter is, kids are going to have disagreements and arguments at recess.
Yeah.
But they're over it in 10 or 15 minutes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they want to play with that same friend, you know, the
Yeah.
next day or second recess.
Yeah.
You know, they go right back to what they were doing and they're best friends again and everything is fine.
Right.
But when we as adults get in the middle of that,
Our emotions come through.
right, and we muddy that for them, unfortunately. We don't mean to. Our intentions are the best.
Absolutely. We all want the best for our
Yes.
children.
Yes, but I think we're all realizing that it's better to trust them to work out their own conflicts
Right.
than to think we have to do it for them.
Yeah.
So,
Love that.
yeah.
Love it. Do you have any advice, or what would you say to other schools that have a more traditional recess style and don't see any reason to change? What might you say to them?
Well, I would say recess isn't just a break. Recess is a very important developmental opportunity for our children, for our students. It's where they gain independence. It's where they gain agency and confidence. And so I think it maybe doesn't matter so much whether or not you have more than one recess. I think for us, it's been a huge benefit for our kids. Like I said, teachers don't have to have as many brain breaks in the classroom. There's
Right.
not as much fidgeting. There's not as much loss of focus. So right there is a reason schools should consider it, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But also, the whole independence piece is crucial. You know, we have to step back. We have to be there as the safety net for our kids.
Right.
But we shouldn't be in the middle of their play, because we're taking away that trust when we do that. And we don't know, we don't realize we're doing it, but you can really see it when you stop doing it.
When you stop doing it, yeah, it's like, oh, she doesn't need me to do that, or he doesn't
Right.
need me to, always tie his shoe when it's untied. He can do it himself.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
the creative side of things, too, is another reason that I think this is important for other schools to think about. I see our students being so much more creative outside.
Wow. Yeah.
Than they used to be. It was I don't know what to do. I'm bored. What should I do? To the adults all the time.
Right.
And you almost never see that now. There's no student running up to the teacher saying, I'm bored and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. That's cool.
They just go from one thing to another. If they realize, oh, this wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be, they just go do something else on their own. And so that's very important. We want our kids to grow up to be independent adults. We're not raising them to remain children.
Right. And the training starts now.
The training starts now. It certainly does. So I would say to other schools, by considering something like this, you're giving your kids an opportunity to explore, to be creative, to be imaginative, and to be independent.
Yeah.
All very important topics.
Very important. Very
And also, you don't have to do everything at once. Pick and choose. Maybe if you're not ready to do multiple recesses, okay, just try the stepping back a little bit at recess, making sure that they have lots of different areas to explore. Like I said earlier, some kids aren't into the swings or the kickball, but they're more artistic. Make sure you have sidewalk chalk.
Right.
Make sure you have jump ropes. Make sure you have hula hoops. Make sure you have things to dig in the sand.
Yeah.
So that kids have lots of different ways to explore. So that would be a baby step to start.
Absolutely.
But again, I do highly recommend splitting up your recess, taking it away from lunch. Most elementary schools do recess right after lunch. Consider changing that. Consider taking some of that time and putting it in a morning recess. The kids come to school, they do some academics, then they go outside. They connect with nature. They explore. They come back from that morning recess so energized and so engaged. So that's my advice.
That's wonderful. Awesome.
One more thing I want to add to what other schools should consider with regard to recess is trying to do the multi-age recess. So in other words, having the whole school out at recess at the same time versus, a lot of schools have like 3rd through 5th grade out at one point and K through 2nd out. If they're able to have the whole school join at recess at the same time, it's enormously beneficial, as we've already covered a lot of the reasons why. But multi-age play gives so much opportunity for little kids to expand and their skill set and grow, to connect with older students and really create a strong school community. So I highly recommend that schools consider that piece of it as well.
That.
Well, I think we've kind of covered reimagining recess
too.
here at SIA. I'm very excited about the changes that we made this year, and we will see where it goes from here.
Absolutely.
Again, I don't want to get my students overly excited. I don't think we'll be adding any additional recess over what we have, but I feel like in the future we'll see, we'll expand on what we have available outside for our students. That would probably be our next step. I thank all of you for joining us today, all of our listeners out there. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our podcast today. Please give us feedback. If you found value in our episode today, I hope that you'll subscribe, share, like, forward, all those good things to your friends and family. You can also visit our website for more information on today's episode and our past episodes at www.strelitzinternationalacademy.org. And please remember that it takes a whole community to build a strong foundation for our children to grow and develop. On behalf of SIA, I thank you for joining us today, and I thank you for your partnership.